right, we're rolling. Hello, Cassie. I'm super excited, guys, to have Cassie McKenzie with us today. So obviously it's Julz from Glam and Grind. Rach isn't here today. She's actually traveling from Bozeman. We are going to have a Wealth Masters strategy meeting with entrepreneurs this week. So we're super excited to hang out in Jackson Hole, which I've never been. So that is exciting to me. Have you been, Cassie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. A cross-country trip from Virginia all the way over. And that was one of that in Montana, I loved it. Glacier Park. Yeah.
Rach is from Montana. I've never been to Montana either. She's like, Julie, you got to get your butt here. So I have to get to Montana. But I'm Canadian. So I've never been to so many of these states. I'm American now, but I was Canadian for 40 some years. So thank you. I'm super excited. So I came on an entrepreneurial visa and then ran some businesses and then finally got my citizenship. For those of you kind of just tuning in now, that was my story. We had a lot of businesses and we ended up selling to private equity. And so made our move here and did it again in the last one in 2021. So super exciting, but let's talk about you because this is so exciting to have you on here. So I'm going to do a brief bio because I want people to kind of understand your background, but then we're going to nitpick all the things that I think are super interesting on this. So Cassie McKenzie. So you help entrepreneurs and you help sales teams with what we call the corporate entrepreneurial spirit. You create millions in sales by combining non-salesy strategies, which I love and I want to pick apart, with your big sales breath work. So for years to come without burning out, which, hello, everybody here wants to learn about how to not burn out and make revenue and increase sales. Cassie's a sales strategist. So she has a 24-year sales background. That's incredible. In specialty medical sales, $1 million sales, and 2,500 clients served to date. So thank you, Cassie, for being on. And Cassie, you can talk a little about yourself, and then we'll start talking about all the things. So the show is called Exploding Your Sales with Breathwork. So let's go. Tell me all the things.
Well, thank you for the welcome. I'm excited to be here. I'm a mom of 2, and I've also actually one came home early from school today.
Nice.
So he's out there. So I actually have our border collie and my cat here. So
we always have lots going on. So no worries. It's uncut. It's real life. We like to just hang out with our listeners. Like, we're moms. If you don't see a kid come through this door behind me, we'll be very lucky. We homeschool. So so we may have some little people in our video. It's totally fine. And most people listen to it audio, but we like the video for those who like to be on YouTube or, want to see I'm a visual learner, so I like to watch where a lot of people are audio. So, tell us about all the things.
Yeah. So I started out in sales right out of college. I was 21 and I was hired on with J&J, Johnson & Johnson. And I literally found myself on one of the best teams, learned from the best. I'm so fortunate to have great mentors early on, before I had to start paying for them. Right.
Yes.
Pay for them. Back then I was like, why do I have to have my manager with me? Now I'm like, oh.
And now you're like, man, it's so nice to not have to pay someone for a mentorship. Yes, for sure.
But it just goes to show how worth it is, But so I spent about 20 years in pharma before coming home to spend time with my kids, once they were born. And that's when I started my business. I used to love this is it. I didn't want these to get out. And if you hear heavy, it's not me.
That's okay. And we have lots of animal mom lovers on here. So just feel free to do your thing. That's cool.
She's relentless too. Okay, just right there. But anyway, but this is how it is, you got to be yourself. You've got to feel comfortable. You can't get all flustered, And so I've always done really well in sales. I made 10 million in sales my first year.
Wow.
And
that was in pharma, you said? In pharma?
Yeah. And I took my territory from worst to first and won the President's Cup award. And I I decided I wanted to start training, like be a sales trainer after a couple of years of being in the field. And that was my favorite role ever. I mean, I really like sales. It's easy. I can do it in my sleep. But I really loved the piece around helping other people get better and kind of like being the leader and being the one that everybody sought out, help from. That was so fun for me. And I know it's not like not everybody's built for that, but when you have this like entrepreneurial spirit, like you have to be comfortable being a leader, right? Like that's number one. But when I started my own business, I found like it was so totally different from corporate life because, you're really selling yourself. And so any kind of insecurities you have around you or your offer, I mean, you're learning so much too. And for high achievers like us who are like, I'm going to make a podcast and I'm just going to go do it. Like you don't sit there for 3 months or 3 years talking about starting you just do it,
So I want to interrupt you for 1 second. I believe that the most successful entrepreneurs are very quick decision makers. And we talk about this a lot. Like we don't hem and haw. We're like, okay, this is what it is. And if it's not going to fit this box, we move on. Like, so we have a really quick decision-making capability, but we also have, I think, a framework or what we call like our buy box of things that are just non-negotiable. And if it doesn't fit, I'm not distracted.
Yeah.
All the other things, because I think it's so easy in today's world with the scrolling and the environments we're in. It's so easy to just, get distracted and like, oh, this shiny object. And I have clear, like, I call it hyper focus, but on like all kinds of things. And so it's really a challenge. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a challenge staying and like making the main thing the main thing.
Yeah. So the shiny objects, right? Absolutely. 100%. And I just found that, as people who are high achievers, especially in the corporate world too, because that was obviously like a huge background of mine, you're constantly also looking for validation. You're being pit against each other. So there's this competitive, like you want to win. And like, I'm all about like, don't take the part around you. I mean, don't take the part about wanting to win, like out of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you don't have to carry like the comparison and you don't have to carry the competition and all of that because it's just going to drive you crazy.
Right.
I mean, technically somebody who's selling the same exact thing as you is a competitor, right? And so we learn from that, but we don't make it mean anything about it. And so about us. And so when I discovered breathwork, it started to totally change the way I interacted. Because I've been in sales forever. I'm a strategy nerd. Like I love it. I could just like take a training on messaging every day of the week and be like, but I still need to learn something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God, kill me. Like, I don't want to even learn about messaging. I'm like, no, we can always be better.
Well, and I think that messaging also comes into effect with branding a lot. So like as an entrepreneur, your messaging has to be who your authentic self is. And I think people miss that, right? Like, yes, you're selling a product. Yes, you're doing all those other pieces. However, at the same time, like your messaging is all around you. So like my messaging on here has to be consistent with my messaging as a mom. The decisions I make at home has to be consistent with my work messaging, has to be consistent with my leadership messaging. And I think a lot of people feel like they don't need to work on that messaging, but I believe it's like a work in progress because as we develop, our messaging should develop, right? We should be more in tuned to, how do you even say it? Like defining, redefining, like making that message niche down for yourself, And so I feel like a lot of people's messaging is either too broad or doesn't really reflect what they do, right? So how do you go about helping folks do that?
Well, I think it's really important to get into the shoes of your ideal client or the person that you really want to work with. And it's, it's so important to have that at the forefront to know, what are they going through? What are the thoughts going through their head every day? What are the types of things that they think are holding them back versus what are really holding them back? Like, how well do you really know them and know what they want? And I think a big part of messaging that's missed is, because there's a lot of problem aware content right now, for example, where you're like, listen, and one of the ones that's always popular that I post is like, you're you're like bitching at your husband for how he loads the dishwasher and like when he just like, like
when he's loading the dishwasher. Yeah. I do that, by the way, FYI.
Yeah.
I am a little guilty of my
the lemons, but you know what I mean? But you're really just mad. You're really just upset about how your launch is going. Like you think you're mad at him, but no, it's got nothing to do with it. It's just like an unregulated nervous system that's like causing panic in every other area of life because you're worried about how this mid-launch slump is going and making it mean something about you, which then makes you angry at yourself. And then if you're angry at yourself, you can't be really happy with the people around you. And it's like this big cascade that then I ended up burning out from because like I was taking more action and more action and more action and people pleasing everywhere I could and like holding the door open for everybody, but like closing it on myself. And it wasn't until like earlier, actually this year, that I hit full on like adrenal burnout because there were so many. I talk about like having your in-laws in town. Like I had mine from South Africa. They were here for like a month and they're lovely people, but it's in my office. And I was like working a virtual like corporate pharma job. Actually, it was like a laboratory thing. And I was not happy in the job, but I had to because my husband had been unemployed for a while. So we were just kind of like a lot of balls in the air. Plus, I really enjoy it. Like I said, I could sell in my sleep. So it's like easy money, you know what I mean? Like easiest ever. And so it was with a good team. And, but I was doing that plus running my business, plus like going live, having a podcast, having 2 kids. I had just dislocated my knee by being Barbie on roller skates at Halloween with a little too much tequila mixed in. And next thing you know, it's like all of these things are like I couldn't exercise because I basically couldn't walk, and all of these factors though then led to me totally burning out. And that actually started before I got injured because even back then I was doing like back-to-back launches every few weeks and up till like 3 a.m. writing email sequences and taking care of the kids, but then also having just insane like perfectionist coming up too. And it's just such a cocktail for you to burn out and miss out on sales because like you've got to have this steady energy level. And there's this part of you that shuts off, like it shuts off your creativity, and your creativity is really your moneymaker. So if you can't come up with any kind of creative solutions because you're in like a fight or flight or freeze state constantly, because you're, burning out or hustling too much or comparing yourself to everybody or trying to be the one that does the most, then like you're not going to win any awards. You're going to end up probably having like a lot of health problems, but also not really see you'll be like in income slumps and not even know why. You'll be like, holy shoot, like I can't imagine making 3 times the amount of money that I'm making right now, because inside your mind is saying, and your nervous system saying, this is going to take 3 times the work to get that. And the amount of work right now is about to kill me. So that means I'll be dead by the time I make this money, and that's not worth it. So it just,
well, and I don't know if you noticed while you were talking, I had a painter here. I told him I'm going to be on this podcast and he's creeping in the door behind me. I'm like, get out. Like, but I could stress myself out and become an emotional disaster or just be like, whatever, like, I don't know what you're doing at the door right now. My husband's somewhere in this house. Why do you need to talk to me when I'm on a podcast? Like, get over it. And I just texted my husband, hello, could you please deal with what's happening in our house? I'm only on this podcast for an hour. Thank you. Sometimes I have to be like, okay, really? But you can get in your head about this stuff, right? So like often, but prior to like doing a lot of work on myself, I would be like so upset. I would be freaking out, trying to like change the situation. Now I'm like, okay, clearly I was not either communicating effectively or something happened, because that shouldn't happen. And everyone knew in this house that I was on a podcast, and it's an hour that I say, don't bother me. Like, I'm in my daughter's room. I don't know if y'all heard, but I was talking to Cassie earlier. my in-laws are in town, which is so awesome because we're leaving for Jackson Hole. I don't even know where I'm at. Jackson Hole, Wyoming this afternoon for Wells
Go
Masters.
to Jacksonville if you can go to Jackson Hole. Way different vibe.
Right. I'm in Jackson Hole this week, but I'm in my daughter's room. And so I told everyone, but this is the stuff that happens, right? And so, but headspace, like we're just you just talked for 5 minutes on where you're at, right? Headspace, where your alignment is, like this kind of stuff, protecting yourself from distraction, from misalignment, right? Like this, like this would make my head blow off, and probably you'd see me in this frame turning 20 shades of purple about like, how many times do I need to talk about what we're doing here, right? So, but it still bothers me, yes. Yeah. But I think now I'm like, okay.
Everybody else to get it. Like that's, I remember, I remember that day, like the day I was going back to work after like my in-laws being in town, we were redoing the front yard. And of course the people were showing up that day, like right when I had a conference call. And then I was supposed to go live for like an hour with someone else. And I remember the night before, like finding this out at like 10 o'clock, like 9 o'clock at night, and being like, and that was like my in-laws had just gotten there like 2 days prior. And I remember sitting there like about to explode and because I've got a knee brace on. I can't even like sleep without the knee brace. I hate relying on other people to do things in my house. You know what I mean? And so I remember sitting there and being like, I can't believe this. This is crazy. And like looking at my mother-in-law and her looking at me and being like, I don't really see what the problem is. And I was like, I was like, oh my God, okay, well, I guess I know where to go for the
and I think
answers.
I think that also, like, I have a lot of like, I anticipate a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Like I anticipate, what should I be doing so that this doesn't happen? What should I manage so that this, and I just realized people are not like that. So I thought everybody had this intuition of preemptive, like, arrangement of like trying to just make sure things go smoothly. I think most people are super chill and just let whatever happens. And I'm always trying to control what if this was going to happen, let me try to manage this person so they're not, doing that. And that's just not the general vibe. It's like, oh, well, no big deal. So she's on a podcast, like, okay, and even though I was like, the direction was there, but anyways, and I told you, my daughter's homeschooling. She knows, like, hey, I'm using your office for while you eat lunch, but things happen. Like clearly this painter was like, I need Julie. And I'm like, I don't know why you can't ask Bo, my husband, like, why do you need to speak with me? Like, is there something that you need from me? Probably money. It's why he's waiting for me. But I'm like, go talk to my husband. Like, what are you waiting for me for? Go, So, but things like that happen. So sorry. I was a little distracted there because I was like, and he saw me on Zoom and I'm like, what? Like, and that's the other thing about people, social cues. Like, I feel like so many people have lost the ability to manage social cues. Like, you see them on a Zoom, when you open the door, you'd be like, oh shit, sorry, right? Like, I'm out. No, you're just like waiting there, like as if I'm going to stop to talk to you.
Like, get up.
and just like, excuse me, turn around, right? Like the whole thing. And I don't know, like, do you think I'm talking to myself? Like, anyway.
Yeah, I think they do, because they don't know.
I don't know. Yes.
But see, that's why I love having the breathwork as a tool, because like, these are perfect moments where you're like, after that conversation with my mother-in-law and after like this kind of situation where you're like, okay, I can't rely on other people to always get it. I can't rely on them to validate my anger, like whatever, my, frustration, but I have to have the tools to be able to go to neutralize that energy and self-source the energy inside me to make me magnetic for what I want. Because I think a lot of times we end up staying in that place of like frustration
for too long.
Yeah, but it may not even be about like the painter. It could, for example, be about something else that happened, about the event that's coming up, or some sort of like logistical piece.
I do believe that, because this morning it started with we put in an offer for a business and the broker called and he was just like he put me out of alignment this morning. Let's just put it that way. So then all day I feel like this like misalignment was happening. And then I went to the post office and everything went really well. So I was like, great, I'm back on alignment. Yeah. Like, now he's here. I'm like, hey, you're just testing me today. Like, what is it?
Right.
So, but I think he has to do some work in Zoe's bathroom, which yes, that's fine. But like, do something else until I'm done, you know? So anyways, I have to always be like, okay, really, what did it kill me? You know, and then reframe. But let's talk about, because we've been kind of going around it, but how can you explain basically how breath work can influence or enhance, I guess, your sales strategies?
Yeah. So, okay. So the traditional way to go about sales is to have like a list of sales activities and then do them all and then hope the sales come in.
Right.
But like what we forget is that we're human and that there's all of these points where you may shrink yourself, you know, like where you say that you want to be visible, for example, but then in front of certain people, you tend to shrink yourself, or you're afraid, like subconsciously, there's something there that's like, ooh, this isn't good enough. So you don't really go full energy out and actually give it the space that it's needed. A lot of the other side of things is the identity work. The identity work is like 99% of everything that has to do with up levels. And if you are executing strategy at a level, or maybe you raised your price to a level that your identity isn't matched up with, and subconsciously your nervous system thinks it's going to be dangerous for you to get it. I'll give you an example of this in a second, but like, then it's going to prevent you from having it. So you could journal, like a lot of people journal all day long, every morning, or, you know, meditate on their number, like say 20K months, for example, right? I did, and I used to do that too, where I do 369 journal of, I am so thankful and happy for my 20K months, you know? But meanwhile, if you have some kind of stored trauma, like these emotions, the feelings of being rejected, any kind of thing where you weren't good enough, even down to your childhood days that you might not even put two and two together, that's all affecting how you show up, your confidence in yourself, your conviction in your audience, your conviction in the offers and the pricing, like whether people come on and actually pay you, whether the deal is going to eventually go through, like all these things. And so a couple months ago, I actually did a breath work that was a 25K activation. And I was like, ooh, this will be fun. I'm going to activate myself for 25K months consistently, you know, and if you're in the online space, you know, like there's all these random numbers that are thrown out there, like what you should be making every month. And you might say you want to make them consciously. Your mind says, yes, that would be life-changing. Like, I don't just want to pay the bills. I want life-changing money. And so I got so this was about collapsing time around 25K. So in other words, like you've made 25K at some point in your life or in your career. So let's, instead of doing it over this broad amount of time, let's shrink it down to 1 month or even 1 week or 1 day. And I did this. I did the breath work. I got about 4 minutes into it. And at one of the prompts, I noticed that like my skin started feeling itchy. And I literally was like having like an allergic reaction. It was like, ew, like I wanted to like get out of my skin, and it just felt like panicky. And it was the craziest thing. And I started to get this message of like, it is unsafe. Making 25K that quickly is going to kill me, like that kind of thing. And so literally in this breath work, because I don't just teach you how to breathe, I use these modalities like what you've learned on previous podcasts, like NLP, which is using the language of, you know, the brain to get the results that you want, you know, being able to really like manipulate the way your brain is working in order to, you know, ecologically, for the best of everybody involved, get what you want, right? And then hypnosis, we use hypnosis techniques in it too, because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So you're actually subconsciously rewiring yourself to accept better and more
outcomes.
Outcomes. Yeah. Like, more sales, more clients, more money in a shorter amount of time. And so when I did this, I was like, oh my God, like my subconscious is literally making this mean so many things it doesn't need to mean. It was actually, as much as I said, I want 25K months or even a 25K day, the thought of that to my nervous system was panic.
Uneasy, right? Yes. And I sometimes will think like when we put packages together and stuff, but a lot of times I'm having a challenge with NLP work when, so for example, I put a package together and I'm like, well, I know that I offer enough value, but I worry about making sure I offer enough value all the time. And I know the work behind it as a child, all the things, because my parents were divorced. Like I know all the things of why I constantly have that, because I have done the NLP work, but I still need to obviously do a lot more. But I feel like a lot of listeners can relate to that. Like they put a package together, or they increase their tuition, or they increase their price of their product. And then they're like, well, then I have to add more value. No, it's already valuable enough, but it's like our nervous system. I always feel like intuition versus ego is constantly having this battle in my brain and in my heart and my stomach. So getting through that, I mean, I guess, what are some tips on getting through that besides obviously creating confidence, doing the NLP work, doing those things? Like, is there something that can help folks be like, hey, you've made the decision, now you stick to it and move through? Or is it good to kind of say, hey, I feel itchy and like I'm feeling like this isn't going to be good? and what's the difference between intuition, ego, mind, NLP work? Like, where do you draw the line?
So your intuition is always obviously trying to get you to give you the I call it like the path of least resistance, right? The path of most allowance.
Yeah.
And but you can't hear what your intuition is trying to tell you if you're in this reptile brain, if you're in this panicked brain where you're logically trying to work everything out, because it's going to come from your creativity. And so the beauty of breath work, a lot of people actually use mindset work like NLP or journaling or whatever by itself to make the mind think one thing, but all of these old traumas and emotions, the way you feel about it is it's in your body, right? It's stored in your body. That's why you feel like someone, like an elephant sitting on your chest, or somebody like open up their phone to look at the bank balance and you're like, before you even see it, you're making that. And it's a little, like a trauma response.
Right.
But the way, like, you have to get rid of those traumas inside your body through breath work in order to be able to, with ease, hold it all. Okay. Because every single time your nervous system is either going to kick it out and make it
fight or flight.
Right. Or self-sabotage, right? Where you're like, you have the biggest month ever, but then your nervous system freaks out and it just won't let you hold it because it doesn't feel like it's safe. And safety doesn't have to be like logical
danger. Right.
Yeah. Like your conscious brain logically is saying, well, it's safe for me to make $50,000 this month. Like, why does that have to mean something's going wrong? Right. You could say that all day long, but once you do it, if your nervous system doesn't think it's safe, then it's going to find a way to lose it, spend it, never do it again.
Right.
I remember I went the longest time without signing new one-on-one clients because I had my biggest month ever and I signed like 5 at once, and all but like one stayed on for the all amount of time. 2 of them actually did, but a couple of the other ones were kind of like not great matches, like, stopped paying, stopped showing up. And it was like not the best thing. And so my nervous system equated that with dangerous
failure. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially for people that are like really high achievers like us.
Well, and coaching, I feel like in that coaching space, you're vetting clients, you're doing all the things, but at the end of the day, you can't do the work for them. And so like, no matter how much value you're adding, if they're not ready to do the work and they're not accepting the value, it becomes an us issue, which it shouldn't be, right? It's like you can only lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But I feel the same. Like when I have coaching clients that aren't reaching what I feel like is my guarantee or promise, but it's not because of maybe necessarily what I'm doing. I do feel like they have some blockages. And so, I have a lot of them working through NLP stuff because I do believe they are somewhat sometimes blocking the acceptance or taking this path of most allowance all the time. They might be taking the path of non-allowance, right? And not purposefully. It's just, I think, something that is coming out. And so we'll get them to a certain point that I'm like, great, they got this. They're going to move over this hump. And then it's like stagnation again. And I'm like, man, like we just worked on all that. So I do understand that from the coaching perspective. We coach entrepreneurs for scaling and legacy wealth. And I always say, like, what you get from my program should be the minimum of what you pay, either in a savings and tax or in growth of your business or whatever. And then, or like you put surveys out and they don't answer, for example, but yet, they're happy with your work. But these are things that like we take on as like, oh, like we're doing something wrong or we're not giving enough value. Or, I think that stuff comes from, like you said, that prior trauma that no matter what you tell yourself, that little voice in the back, like you were probably telling yourself, Cassie, like you're doing something wrong. These clients aren't, they're not wanting to stay or they're not growing with you.
Yeah. Like I don't want to have them anymore. Or like consciously you want to have them, but like your nervous system.
You shut down, right? You don't want to be failing. That's something that like is dangerous for us.
Exactly.
But it's not like dangerous. You know what I'm saying? It's dangerous to us because we don't feel good.
But
we don't feel good in that space, right? Mm-hmm. So I have a question for you. Could you like walk us through like a simple breathwork exercise that a salesperson can use, like before a big pitch or a big meeting or some kind of, just to give us an idea of what that would look like? I mean, obviously, if they want to work with you, there's a lot more to it, but I just want to give them a little quick, like, because we did a lot of NLP stuff, but we haven't done anything about this breath work or kind of getting to this level. So I'd like to, offer them a little, I don't know if you can do it, but
I can actually. I liked, what do you think about doing one around like feeling comfortable, like shamelessly promoting yourself, like shameful promotion. Okay. Because I know that's a big thing that comes up, especially if you're like in your offers or pitching yourself, or like even for you this week, I'm sure at some level you'll be pitching, ways to work together. So if you want, okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Now, I also want to say, if you guys are following along with this and driving in a car, like don't do it.
Don't do it. Please pull over. If you are following in a car, do this after you arrive at a safe destination.
Yes.
Awesome.
And, but like the way I like to do breath work is, well, obviously we won't have the music on here, I don't think, but
if you put it on, it will come through, but I don't know if you have it. So
I wonder.
And if not, you can just do it like an idea, just even if it's not the whole thing, just to kind of see what the expectation would be, even if it's just like the start of it. We don't have to spend a ton of time, but.
Yeah. Okay. So it'll be about 5 minutes. What we'll do. Okay. So you can close your eyes and go ahead and start to breathe in into your nose, count to 4, and then breathe out for 6. Out of your mouth again.
It's hard. I'm like trying to watch you opening and closing.
Yeah. In for 4 and out for 6. And do that just a couple more times. And we'll be using in this one a what I call the 2-1 breath. So it's a 3-part breath.
Okay.
In a minute, I'll have you start where you breathe into your belly, up into your chest, exhale through your mouth. So you can go ahead and start that now, up into your belly, into your heart, exhale, release. Again, into your belly, into your heart, exhale. And keep this pattern going. No pause at the top and no pause at the bottom. Go ahead and keep breathing for a couple of minutes as you set the intention to be the type of person who could make a 10K sale today and tomorrow and every day after that,
Or whatever your intention is, right? At that point. So.
Go ahead and do that. Into your belly, into your chest, exhale. And as you're doing that, I want you to, because we're gonna use like the idea around feeling comfortable promoting yourself. Mm-hmm. So You're in this breath work, as you keep breathing into your belly, into your chest, and exhale, you're going to become so wildly confident and convicted in yourself, so much so that you could pitch yourself and sign a client after you do this breath work today. So again, into your belly, into your chest, release. And I want you to go ahead as you're breathing, ask your subconscious mind, what is the main block to promoting myself like $1 million CEO today? Keep your breath moving into your belly, into your chest. Exhale. Yeah. Into your belly, into your heart. Breathe deeper. Exhale. And you're going to allow all the stories to come up, all the reasons why you can't do it, all the stories that say it's wrong to promote yourself too much, that you're selling too much. And notice as you're breathing, breathe into your belly, into your chest, out through your mouth. Notice where these stories live in your body. So you might notice, yes, some areas are tighter than others.
Mine's always in my throat.
Yeah. And you can go take your awareness down there as you're breathing and ask, like, what is this really about? And breathe into your belly, into your chest, exhale. And you can breathe these stories out. You can shrink them. Imagine them just becoming smaller, and then you breathe them out with your breath. And go to those areas of tightness in your body where maybe there's that knot in your back that's like always there, and taking that, like tightness up in your shoulders. It's usually connected with doubt, doubting yourself. Notice where they live and go ahead and release them. And then I want you to go ahead and imagine floating up into the future to a point a little while from now where you pitch yourself to a stranger or in front of a group, and people say, yes, like 100%, I need you. Imagine that's happening right now. And ask your subconscious in this moment, what is my gift? What's the biggest reason why I'm the one right now? And keep your breath moving. Really go for this breakthrough, even though it's a shorter breath work. Really allow it to come forth. Why are you different? What sets you apart? What makes you the best? Breathe into your belly, into your chest. Exhale. You're doing amazing. We're almost done. And ask your subconscious and talk. You can even talk with that version of you that's already made this happen, and ask, like, what beliefs must I have right now? And whatever's first to come to you is what your intuition is trying to tell you to do right now. And keep breathing into your belly, into your chest, exhale. And then you can ask your subconscious, as you keep breathing, what are the 2 to 3 action steps that I need to take today to step into this version of me? Keep breathing into your belly, up into your heart. Exhale. Allow yourself to unwind as you get these 2 to 3 action steps. Keep your breath moving. And once you have your actions, you can go ahead and bring them with you as you float back into this current moment. Just float all the way back and back into your chair, bringing your actions with you. And if you need to write them down, go ahead and do them because they are liquid gold, literally. And if you want a longer version of this, then just find me on Instagram and I'll get you one. Because they're normally like 20, 25. But
no, this was great. And I'm writing my 3 things right now so I don't forget.
Ooh, you got them, huh?
Yeah, really quick. It was pretty easy. So it came right away. So I guess that's good. So
love it.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you guys didn't get them right away, then just allow it to come. It'll come to you. Normally these sessions I do, the ones that are like deep to reprogram, like when I found myself like itchy at the thought of making more money, and I'm like, dang, I really need
more to unpack there. Yeah, no, I felt like I was really open to it. Like it came right away. It was something I was already thinking of and hadn't pulled the trigger on. So I think it was already there. I just had to like be like, okay, girl, just start. Just do these 3 things that you've already said you need to do. You've been saying you need to do them for a year. Just do them. So,
do it.
Yes, right. So just Nike, just do it. So, okay. Well, we have a few more minutes, but I had some questions. I think we went over a lot of it in general. But let me just see, in terms of long-term benefits, right, of breath work, how do you sort of integrate this so that it's beyond just this immediate performance boost? Like, how do we make it part of our, I don't know, long-term benefit? How do we integrate this in our life, right? Because it's okay, great, I just had a breakthrough. Awesome. Tomorrow I'm going to go back to being Julie, right? Like, so, I feel like obviously I've seen you have a ton of real life success stories, you've worked with 2,500 clients, Breathwork works. So how do you integrate it to be just more than a breakthrough session or a one-time check mark?
Yeah.
It's
such a great question because it's just like exercise. So if you think about it, like I took my dog for a walk this morning, but if I don't go for like another walk in a month, then I'm going to go back to where I was before, if not worse. Right. And so when you start to think about breath work and things like this, it's really like uprooting things that have been stored in your body for decades. The work that we're doing, it compounds on itself. And the energetics, like energy is your biggest currency. And so it should be a priority in your business. And especially when you think about like people are buying you, they're not necessarily buying your offers, they're buying the way they see you and seeing you comfortable. And the more you up level, the more some of your shadows are going to come out at deeper levels. And so for me, like I stopped offering like single sessions anymore because I saw that people really need long-term. They need this, like they need access long-term.
I agree. I feel like this one and done checkmark stuff on like, okay, yep, I did the breath work. I got my, my items, I've succeeded, and let's move on to something else. It's not like, I feel like in general, society's longevity and attention, to something for more than just a one-time check mark has been a challenge for a lot of people. And so, holding on to that, right? Like integrating this into daily life. Like I do my gratitude journal every morning. Well, maybe like part of that has to be a 5-minute breath work or, just starting to do something where this integration of wellness techniques in my strategy for my return on life strategy, which is making sure that health, wealth, and happiness are integrated in my life every day. I feel like in general, I also believe that society is moving more towards integration of wellness techniques in business. I'm seeing just so like I talked to you at the beginning of this session about it's just something that is really there's just a lot of notice being placed on like, how can we do this in a healthier way? How can we, clear these things for ourselves? So I really enjoyed all of that. And so, any other tips and tricks you'd leave us with for that?
100%. Yeah. Like health is wealth. And so it's a long-term thing. And if you plan to have your business and build a movement and have this community and this massive thing that like outlives you, then you've got to have this plan for the longevity of you being able to continue to show up and have it be sustainable. And so we can do that through sales strategy, yes. But as far as involving the body and involving you as you grow, like opening up your capacity to hold, more on every different level, that really, and have that emotional intelligence, it all goes back to so many benefits, that the fastest way to do this is with breath and with breath work. That's why I love incorporating the subconscious reprogramming and also the visioning in it, because for my clients, especially when we're doing deep dive, it's like only 20 to 25-minute sessions, but we include the visioning in there too. And that is what gets you aligned with that higher, like the quantum leaps.
Right. Because you have to see it almost to like be able to get it done. Right. So yeah.
Who you are when you're there, how you're handling the things, how you're responding to it, like what your actions would be there versus what they are in today's version of you. And that's where you start to see people who have these like crazy quantum leaps. And it's because they've mastered their state, right? Like change your state, change your outcomes. And when you master your state and you know how to manipulate that for good, then you can, like, you start to be able to get through things that normally would take you out for like a week, maybe a month, maybe a year,
Right. And
burn your business down all the time.
Yeah. And I was in a mastermind group called the Billionaire Mastermind, and we did an exercise called the best day ever. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's obviously envisioning your best day ever, what that looks like, how you feel, envisioning yourself at the end, and then coming back and, basically what you did. But it's just like you're called your best day ever. But when we did that, I really realized like the power of manipulation of your state, because you can totally manipulate that outcome by seeing yourself in it almost, and so it was an interesting visionary concept that he does it, he says all the time. And so then now I find myself being like, okay, Julie, like how would this be changed to your best day ever? And then I say, okay, like, so the painter's not opening the door during the podcast. The broker is, not combative and, and is understanding our position. And like, so all the things, it doesn't have to just be just your best day ever. I'm using it now for lots of things, conversations with family that maybe didn't go the way they should, or, your kids, or, I don't know, your friends. Like, I'll just say, this is how I would like to see our friendship, or this is how I would like to see this family member's relationship with me. And I envision like the outcome. And I feel like and I'm all about working backwards from your desired result, because I do that in business. I do that in life. I do that with money, health, wealth, happiness. So I just think it's very in alignment with how I generally live. So, and I think it does change that negative mindset and the scarcity mindsets and the trauma mindset that sometimes we're brought up with, unwillingly or just genetically. If we're predisposed, I have a lot of anxiety. I've had anxiety since I was a kid. I struggled with anxiety and panic attacks and lots of things. And I have hyperthyroidism. I have parathyroid, disease. All of it is in my throat. And when you were talking about where it's all held, for me, it's always in my throat. I feel like I'm going to choke, or I feel like I can't. So that there's a lot of work that needs to be done around there. So either maybe, they talk about when you're a kid, you didn't feel heard, or you couldn't speak, or something is blocking that. So I don't know exactly, because I grew up in an Italian immigrant family. Children should be seen and not heard, all the things. And so I don't know if that's what the trauma is, but I do have a lot of that throat chakra issues. Like there's a lot of stuff in the throat, and my girlfriend has it all in her back, right? So it's just like, we don't know where we're keeping it, but there's definitely things that we have to work through. And I think the faster you figure out that there's like a cheat code, because I didn't know there was a cheat code. I like literally struggled with anxiety. I still have anxiety. It's not gone. But it's much more manageable when I can be like, Julie, what are you anxious about? Like, is this real? My husband helps a lot too, because he's got a psych background. And so he's often like, you're fine, you're safe. Right. And so I have to go through all that. But I still have anxiety, and I think it doesn't get rid of everything, but it helps you understand the reaction. And sometimes the reaction can be huge in business or, you know, in relationships or in sales. If people see that you're anxious, they're not going to be trusting you, even though it's not your anxiety about the situation. You might just, something triggers you, right, to have a response. So I think
the nervous system, if it doesn't feel safe, and so if you're feeling that anxiety, it's going to come through, and like, it's not going to allow you to keep the results that you really, really want. And so these, whatever traumas are there, are constantly getting kicked up. And that's why, you know, that's why breath work to me is the best thing, because you're really going to the body to find out, okay, what's there. Like I had an experience once where I realized like not enoughness was coming from my kidney. I'd had kidney pressure and adrenal issues for like months. And as soon as like in this one breath work, I was like crying a lot, like your emotions come out.
Right.
I was like screaming into a pillow. I had like these visions from back when I was like 8 years old, and I wasn't, you know, it was like not enoughness back then. And it was crazy because I like rolled over. I started like, felt like I would just pull energy out of my kidney. And after that, I have not had the issues. Wow. It's been like 4 months.
So crazy.
And I saw my healers, like, which I was seeing them like second to last time. So this was in May. And I saw them a couple of days later, and they were like, what did you do? Like, what is this?
What's happening? Yeah.
And they said, it's interesting because, and that I told them this story after they said, okay, so your like there's not enoughness was in your kidney. And I was like, what? You're kidding me. Like, that's what like, you become so in tune with what's going
your
on.
body. Yeah.
There. But and like the reaction there matters so much in sales. Like, it matters so much in everything that you do.
Well, awareness, right? Awareness of yourself is so huge for all those business things. Like I will even base how I'm feeling about a business deal like that, you know? So this business deal in particular we're working on has been really challenging. It's been over a month, and I can't seem to get in alignment with this broker. He's going to be the end of this deal. It's either, you know, that he's literally blocking it. And I've tried all of the things, and I'm like, okay, what is it? Then I'm like, well, maybe the universe is just telling me it's not for me. And then that's that. So today I was literally like, this is what we're offering. If it's not for me, yep. And now I'm like, I'm fine with whatever it is. I just want to know so I can go to the next thing. And so, but I just kept like, you know, when you just keep beating around this like problem every which way. And I just finally said, you know what? It just might not be for me, or it might be not for me right now. And I talked to my girlfriend, Megs, who she does a lot of like past life, like she has a lot of ideas about all these things. And she's like, you know what? It just might not be for you right now. And I was like, right. It might not just be for me today. You know, and maybe Thursday when he doesn't have any offers, or he's like, you know what? They were good people. Maybe it is. And if it's not, then it is not for me, right? There's something better. And I always say there's something that we bring up now in consistency, but we're like, rejection is protection. So like, make sure you hold that, you know, in your heart and in your gut. And I always say, like, I'm not being rejected because I'm not worthy. I'm being rejected because something's protecting me from something that's not supposed to be near me or not supposed to happen in my life. Right. And so I think that's a whole other episode we can go down. I'm sure we could talk all day because we're so in alignment. But if we're going to leave, you know, our people, usually we don't go more than an hour, just to respect the listeners' times. But if we're going to leave them with 3 things on health, wealth, and happiness today, what 3 things would you leave them with?
Oh, well, prioritize your state. Have something that you do every single day, first thing in the morning, to get you in your wealth state. Like for me, it's breath work. For some people, it's dance. Other people, it's, I don't know. But like I really like breath work because it allows me to basically get my journaling, my mindset work, and my state work done like all at once.
Yeah, I'm going to integrate it, I think, because I'm already doing the journaling and my grateful, like I always say, I'm super grateful for our health, wealth, and happiness. I put into the universe that my friends, family, and all those around us receive the same health, wealth, and happiness. And like, so that's kind of how I start my day every single day. But I don't do breath work. I do more, I'm like a writer. I feel like I get a lot out visually, but I feel like this would be helpful. So I'm going to add it to my regime.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally do two types with my clients. So one is a longer version of what I just did with you.
Okay.
Usually it's about 20, 25 minutes, but it really gets into
All the
deep
things.
breakthroughs.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like deep, like connecting with your vision, which is so huge. A lot of people don't know how to do that. And so they don't have the clarity on next steps. But then there's other ones that are like more energy shifting. Like I did one with I'm running a Telegram group right now, and I gave them one called "I'm a Big Effing Deal" for them to feel like it's 100% conviction in themselves. And I'm getting so many messages from them that are like, "I'm a big effing deal. I'm a BFD. Like I thought I was, and I was like, yes, because before they were kind of like, I don't really know, you know what I mean? It's so amazing. So I love those two.
And then when you have that, it just shows you the success that it creates, right? So it's it's just such a validating factor for all the things. Because people often will be like, Julie, like, are you going on the woo-woo end here? Like, I see you're doing a lot of this kind of work. I also think it's age. Like, I turned 50 and I was like, you know what? I just want to be the best me. Like, I just want to be the best self for the next 50 years, right? Like, I did a lot of growing in my teens, in my young adulthood. I was a mom mainly for 20 years, so my oldest is 20. I have 4 kids. We ran businesses with 4 kids under 6. I'm 50. Like, I just feel like now I know myself really well, but I need to unblock all these things that I brought with me through my life. And to get to the next level for me, elevation, like I know is basically stripping that all out, right? Like, so I need to like eradicate to elevate. And I'm really, that's where I'm at right now. So all this is very in alignment. So health, wealth, we talked a lot about happiness. I think all the things you do unleash those 3 factors. And you can focus on whatever you want. Like we said, it's not
too. Like, make sure you go for a walk every day, ground yourself in nature, like make sure you are
your mat.
Computer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And get the help that you need. Like that's really when you need it. Like don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Like that's the best investment you could ever make. And it'll take you way further than anything in Vegas will, like long term.
Well, yeah. And like we always say, invest in assets. The first asset is yourself. So we always say, like, don't continue to invest in liabilities, right? So if you don't want yourself to become a liability, treat yourself as an asset first. And so part of that is doing the work you need to do so you can be your best self, so you can create your best life, right? So anyhow, I know some people are like, whoa, Julie, this is the third frou episode, but it's really things that I think we need to be aware of. And like folks, like I know people that are in their late 60s, 70s, 80s that are carrying around so much trauma from childhood, from social events they've lived through, from wars, from like so many things. I mean, it's not like this is real, guys. Like it's in us. And so we have to figure out either how to do a workaround or get through it. Right. And so otherwise you're going to constantly come up against these blockages, and that's your level of success and achievement will stop there. It will. So I'm ready for the next level. So I'm going to do all the work, whether they do or not. I'm hopeful that at least they get an idea from this podcast to be like, hey, you know what? It's worth making the investment in yourself. So I want to thank you though, Cassie, so much for coming on today. It was awesome. I always write notes on my phone. I wrote so many notes about things that I'm going to integrate and I'm going to start. Can you please let the listeners know where to find you if they would like to start breath work, if they'd like to even just entertain the journey? What can they do?
Yeah, you can come find me on Instagram at XO Cassie McKenzie. I'm always on Instagram. I'm on Facebook too. I have a podcast called I'm Not Salesy. We just started back up with that. And I do longer term, like I do masterminds. I'm actually opening up a foundational thing for, people who want to like get known and make money online, like that kind of thing. We're going to be starting that, but they all involve this nervous system regulation because like you were saying, 20, 30, 40 years ago, our parents weren't taught to do this. And back then, I feel like people's lives were pretty much the same. Like you had the really, really rich people who like
Mhm.
worked on the stock market, or they were
Yeah,
lawyers and doctors.
right.
Now,
But most people were not.
yeah.
So, yes.
I feel like we are so primed to want more, and like not in a bad way, but to like there's so many ways to help the world, and there's so many ways to get your message out and to monetize like your gifts and things like that. And so, but to do that, you've got to have the tools. You've got to have the tools to be able to do it, and do it in a way that your nervous system loves. So come hang out with me and you'll have such a fun time.
And you'll have breakthroughs, more importantly. So
100%.
awesome. Well, thank you again, Cassie.
you.
You can find Cassie at the above. I put the links also in our story here. So you can see Insta, XO Cassie McKenzie, and then you can find her at the I'm Not Salesy podcast. I'm assuming there's links on your Insta if like for all the things. So I'm sure you also have videos they can look at and all the things. So you can find Cassie at those spots that I've posted. If you can't remember what I've said, just go ahead and we'll put them in the comments as well in the links. And then I also want to tell you that glamandgrind.com is our podcast or our website. You can find our podcast on there and links, but we talk about all things entrepreneurial, momhood, millionairehood, breakthrough lifehood. So catch us on our podcast as well. Share this episode if you loved it. Make sure you go and give Cassie a like and some love on her Insta. And, you know, if you think anyone needs breathwork, you might get them a little gift card. I've done that before. Slide in some gift cards for breathwork or something that if you think that you can help someone buy that, employees, family members, friends, I'm always about giving something that will change their life. And I think this is, you know, something that could do that for someone who might not take that leap on their own. So just a thought. So anyways, again, thank you so much. Thanks for being on here. And thank you all for listening, you know, religiously weekly. We have a few of you that email me like, when's that next podcast coming out? Our VAs are working on the Spotify, Apple, all that. They were a little bit behind on some of the episodes, but all the YouTubes are up to date. So you can find us there quickly and easily, but you will have to look at our faces. So
Love it.
If you would rather not, you can, I guess, shut down the video. But anyhow, we love to be here. And thank you, Cassie, for joining. And we'll see y'all soon.
Alrighty, bye.